Welcome to NeoNexus. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more updates. Alaska's economic lifeline to the lower 48 has been abruptly severed. Canada's sudden closure of the Shockwalk corridor has thrown the state into crisis. The once busy route, essential for everything from groceries to industrial equipment, now sits silent, forcing Alaskans to rely on costly, slow sea and air freight. Prices for basic goods are already spiking, with analysts warning of increases up to 30% in weeks. This isn't just a trade spat, it's a rupture in decades of cross-border cooperation, leaving families and businesses scrambling. Trucking companies face shutdowns, retailers are desperate for new supply lines, and shelves across Alaska are at risk of going bare. The region is gripped by uncertainty, as its most critical economic artery is cut off overnight. The Shockwalk corridor is more than just a stretch of pavement winding through the wilderness. It's the main land link between Alaska and the rest of North America, a lifeline that has quietly powered the movement of people, goods, and ideas for decades. This remote highway, cutting through some of the continent's most rugged and breathtaking terrain, has long been a symbol of connection and cooperation, bridging vast distances and uniting communities that would otherwise be isolated. Its existence is rooted in a unique US-Canada agreement, a testament to the trust and mutual benefit that once defined the relationship between these two northern neighbors. The corridor was more than a road, it was a promise, a shared commitment to keep the North open and accessible. For years, the United States provided funding for its maintenance, recognizing the highway's strategic importance not just for Alaska, but for the entire region. This investment kept the route safe and reliable, ensuring that vital supplies could reach even the most remote communities. But recently, a pause in U.S. funding, part of a broader and increasingly bitter trade dispute, has soured relations. What was once a model of cross-border cooperation has become a source of tension and frustration, with both sides feeling the strain. Canada, feeling abandoned and betrayed, saw this as a breach of trust, prompting a drastic and unprecedented closure of the corridor. The impact was immediate and severe, rippling through communities and industries on both sides of the border. Now, fresh produce and perishable goods take days longer to reach Alaska, risking spoilage and driving up costs for families and businesses. The once steady flow of food and essentials has slowed to a trickle, leaving shelves emptier and wallets lighter. Every commodity, from construction materials needed for new homes and infrastructure, to vital oil equipment for energy projects, faces delays, uncertainty, and higher prices. The economic ripple effects are being felt far beyond the border itself. Yukon communities along the highway, once bustling with truckers and travelers, are now struggling. Local businesses that depended on the steady stream of highway traffic are shuttering their doors, and small towns are losing the lifeblood that kept them afloat. The closure, intended as a pointed message to Washington, is inflicting real pain on both sides of the border. It's a stark reminder of just how deeply intertwined these economies and communities have become, and how quickly that connection can unravel. What was once a proud symbol of partnership and shared purpose now stands as a stark line of division, a vital artery, severed, with consequences that reach far beyond the road itself. In Ottawa, officials justified the closure as a reluctant but necessary defense against U.S. tariffs. Canada's leaders, backed by provincial premiers, insist the corridor will stay closed until fair trade is restored. Alaskan officials are stunned, calling for immediate talks and warning that ordinary people are caught in the crossfire. Diplomatic channels have gone cold, the U.S. ambassador has been recalled, and Canada refuses to negotiate until tariffs are lifted. The standoff has escalated from a trade dispute to a full-blown diplomatic crisis, with no end in sight. Both sides are waiting for the other to blink, while citizens pay the price. The Shockwalk corridor has become the battleground for a much larger conflict. President Trump's response was immediate and incendiary. On social media, he called the closure an illegal blockade, and threatened swift retaliation. At a press conference, Trump expanded tariffs on Canadian goods and issued a 72-hour ultimatum: reopen the corridor, or face economic consequences the likes of which they have never seen. The ultimatum leaves little room for compromise, cornering Canada and raising the stakes for both nations. Trump's base cheers his hardline stance, but critics warn it risks a trade war that could devastate both economies. The US-Canada relationship is now at its most precarious point in decades. The world watches, waiting to see if either side will back down before the deadline. For Alaska's trucking industry, the closure is nothing short of catastrophic. The highways that once bustled with the steady hum of commerce have fallen eerily silent, as convoys of trucks sit idle at the border, unable to move vital goods in or out of the state. The ripple effects are immediate and severe, threatening the very backbone of Alaska's supply chain. Companies are staring down the barrel of bankruptcy, with drivers stranded far from home and freight piling up in warehouses and on the roadside. For many, the uncertainty is overwhelming. Every hour of delay means lost revenue, spoiled goods, and mounting bills. Jamie Benson of the Alaska Trucking Association puts it bluntly, "This isn't politics. It's our livelihoods vanishing overnight." For Benson and her colleagues, the stakes couldn't be higher. Truckers are the lifeline for remote communities, and every stalled delivery means empty shelves and anxious families. In Fairbanks, grocers like Maria Chen are desperate to keep their doors open. With shipments delayed indefinitely, store shelves are quickly emptying and the pressure mounts with each passing day. "I can't ask families to pay $12 for milk," she says, as supply costs soar and customers grow frustrated. The cost of basic necessities is skyrocketing, and many families are forced to make difficult choices at the checkout. Oil and gas projects on the North Slope are threatened by delays in critical equipment, risking millions in losses. Construction crews wait for parts that may never arrive, and the region's economic engine grinds to a halt. On the Canadian side, Yukon businesses are reeling from the sudden loss of cross-border traffic. The closure has cut off their main customer base, leaving many to wonder how long they can hold on. Motels and diners that once bustled with truckers and travelers now sit empty, their parking lots deserted, and their kitchens quiet. The sense of abandonment is palpable. "We're just small businesses caught in the middle," says one motel owner, her voice heavy with worry. For her and many others, the future is uncertain. "We need this resolved before we have to close for good." Each day the border remains closed, the risk of permanent closure grows. The economic pain is immediate and widespread, touching every corner of the region. From bustling cities to rural outposts, the hardship is visible in shuttered storefronts and empty streets, with no clear end in sight. Both sides are suffering as the political standoff drags on, leaving communities, families, and businesses in limbo, waiting for a solution that can't come soon enough. The crisis is rippling far beyond Alaska. Ports in Seattle and Tacoma are overwhelmed as they scramble to reroute Alaska's freight by sea, causing delays and congestion. Farmers in the Pacific Northwest and California face higher costs and spoilage risks, threatening their contracts with Alaskan retailers. Manufacturing supply chains across North America are disrupted, as just-in-time delivery models collapse under new logistical hurdles. The closure is a wake-up call for businesses continent-wide, exposing the fragility of cross-border trade. International investors are rattled, questioning the reliability of North American supply routes. Trust, once the bedrock of trade, is eroding fast. The Shockwalk corridor crisis has pushed US-Canada relations to the edge. In Canada, the Prime Minister faces pressure to stand firm. Backing down would be seen as surrendering to US bullying. In the US, Trump's hardline approach divides opinion, his base cheers, but many lawmakers fear economic fallout. Alaska's leaders are caught in the middle, torn between national politics and their state's urgent needs. Internationally, allies see the standoff as a sign of America's growing unpredictability, while rivals see opportunity in the rift. The North American alliance is weakened, and the world is watching closely. What was once a model partnership now teeters on the brink of collapse. The stakes have never been higher for both nations. As Trump's 72-hour deadline looms, the path to resolution is narrow. The clock is ticking, and every hour brings new uncertainty for both nations. Tensions are high, and the stakes could not be greater for the communities, businesses, and families who depend on the free flow of goods and people across the border. The world is watching, waiting to see if cooler heads will prevail or if the situation will spiral out of control. Behind closed doors, negotiators are working around the clock. Quiet diplomacy could yield a face-saving compromise. Canada reopens the corridor, the US suspends tariffs, and both claim victory. Such a deal would allow leaders on both sides to save face and reassure their citizens that cooperation is still possible, even in the face of crisis. But the window for agreement is closing fast. But if talks fail, a tit-for-tat trade war could erupt, inflicting massive economic pain and forcing Alaska to permanently shift to costly sea and air routes. The ripple effects would be felt far beyond the border, disrupting supply chains, raising prices, and threatening jobs across North America. For many, the prospect of a prolonged standoff is almost unthinkable. Third-party mediation may be the only way out if direct talks remain deadlocked. International organizations and neutral countries are already offering to step in, hoping to broker a solution before the situation deteriorates further. The world's eyes are on the negotiators, urging them to find common ground. No matter the outcome, the trust underpinning US-Canada trade has been shaken. Decades of partnership and goodwill have been put to the test, and the scars may last for years. Even if a deal is reached, the memory of this standoff will linger. Businesses will now plan for more risk and higher costs, and the era of easy cross-border commerce may be over. Companies are already scrambling to adapt, rerouting shipments, renegotiating contracts, and bracing for a new era of uncertainty. The economic landscape has changed, perhaps for good. The Shockwalk corridor closure will be remembered as a turning point, a moment when the world's longest undefended border became a real economic barrier. It marks the end of an era and the beginning of a more cautious, uncertain future for both nations.